This year we did a vacation giveaway. Every month, whoever did the big three flawlessly and had perfect attendance would get one raffle ticket. Them plus one, all you can eat, all you can drink, airfare, travels, room and board, all paid for. All right. So, Adam, I know you've been on a couple times, but maybe catch us up to speed. Like, what is your, you don't need to go too deep into depth, but like, I'm sure maybe you have your goals set for 2025, or at least you know what you want to project and do. So maybe walk us through your revenue goals for 2025 and then like how many team members and stuff like that.
Yep, absolutely. So, we're a simple service company, pretty standard to Will as far as the services and the customer base and all that good stuff. This year, we'll finish a little bit below 400,000, and then next year, hoping to do between 600 to 700,000. Kind of what I want to dive into a lot on this call is next year I one of my guys promoting to general manager, and so he'll be taking over the operations for location one, and then plans to open up multiple locations down the road. And so as I said, plan on doing between 600 700,000. That'll be 3 to 4 crews with two men per crew. And so we'll have a general manager managing that, and I'll kind of be taking the seat in the office manager, regional manager role, and helping my general manager a lot out on the sales side of things. So that's what next year is gonna look like for us. And so like I said, a lot of the questions are gonna kind of have to do with that, how to structure things with the general manager, and some questions I have in preparing to take that next step next year. But yeah, super excited for what 2025 has in store.
That's awesome, man. Awesome. It's good to hear you're crushing these goals. So what are some questions that you have that I can hopefully help you get to those goals?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll just start firing them. The first one, I know, and we were talking a little bit a couple minutes ago before we hit record, but something you've been mentioning in a couple of your other videos and lives as well the past few months is kind of the model for the winter and what you do with your crew, as far as obviously as landscapers, all the demand for our service is going to go down in the winter, and we're not going to have as much work. No matter what way you slice it, no matter what service you do, there's going to be a little bit of a drop off there. And so, talk to me about how you manage that with your employees, as far as, does all your employees stay on in the winter and everybody's hours get cut? Do you take the top performers and you try to get them as many hours as possible, try to keep them as close to full time, and then lay off the bottom half, or kind of how that looks tangibly in your company for the winters, especially? I think this will help out a lot of guys in this business around this time when we're going into the slower part of the year here.
Yeah, so it's definitely a sensitive topic because you're dealing with people's income and that's how they feed their family. So you want to be very delicate when you're conveying those messages to the team. What I have found the first year or two we did this, I basically came out and was like hard targeted like team members that like were just underperformers, that I was just like, hey man, we're gonna talk next year. And then what would happen, you just want to be real careful, right? Because they could be friends with other team members on the team. You don't want to ruffle the feathers. Like, so this is how we did it this year, and it worked actually really, really well. Basically, we have an open discussion with the entire team sitting around the conference table and say, look, the December, January, and February are coming around the corner. We do slow down. This is a year-round job. However, the hours go down in these months. All right. The bottom line is we're not going to be able to retain everybody full time in the months of December, January, and February. And so establishing that first, and then you can look at the budgeted hours and be like, typically for us, we retain about 1/3. And so, for this year, we said, hey, we're going to be able to retain about 5 to 6 full-time team members. And we had about like 8 or 9. So there was already the message in the room that, hey, some of us won't be here potentially. And so this is how it looks like moving forward. First off, I'm going to check with each of you guys, because some of them did have second jobs. Even the top performers, for whatever reason, sometimes they had another job. And so we always check with them first. Hey, are you open to kind of cutting back some of your hours? We know you got a second job. Did you want to pick up some more shifts over there? Kind of open up some hours here? Or would you prefer to continue to stay here and work full time through the winter? And most of them are like, hey, I want these hours because these are the P for P hours that I can make 30 an hour. At my Lowe's job, I only make 18, right? And so, which is understandable, but definitely check with them first. So after that, what that looks like, if none of them are going to cut back, the next thing that we did was like, hey, look, by law, like we have the big 3 on our board. It says literally what winning looks like, and it's like show up on time and don't leave your shift. Don't get a ton of yellow slips. Maybe one less than one a week is like our standard there. And then budgeted hours of like you got to do at least like 25 budget hours a week in our business. So those are the big 3. So what we said is like, look, we have a list of all of our people, a roster, and we're going to start at the top. Whoever is doing the big 3 the best will secure your spot. Okay. And then whoever is doing it the worst, and then right off the bat, the guys that don't show up or call off or get a ton of slips, they already know it's coming. It's like, hey, we're a team. We try to want to work together, but if there's only so many hours, I'm going down the list and I'm starting at the bottom. Whoever's not reliable the most or gets the most yellow slips or doesn't do as much production, sorry, but your hours are getting cut first. We're not firing you. We're not saying, hey, you're done. I'm just going to call you off and say, hey, I don't have enough work. Sorry. And so there's a weird gradual part for like the next like 2 to 4 to 6 weeks that you're kind of calling those guys off. And then there comes a point maybe that following week where you say, hey, look, like for those of you guys, or you talk individually with them, anybody that wants to go and get another job in the wintertime, because you need the money. Like if you're paying rent or you have a mortgage and you have to pay the bills, we understand. If you want to go and get another job, guess what? Amazon, retail, this is their busy season right now. Go and get hired at that job. We'll even give you guys a reference. And we'll secure your spot to come back in the spring, and we'll give you a sign-on bonus. And a lot of the guys like that a lot. Like there were 2 that left this year that was like, hey, I want to come back in the spring. I'm getting a temp job. I want to make 25 plus an hour and get that sign-on bonus in the spring, because then you don't have to train them either. So that's kind of the easiest way that I have found to where you don't ruffle feathers or like fire somebody. But hey, whoever does the big 3, it's very simple. That's what we value, because you make my life easier by not having to change the schedule each day if you don't show up, so they understand.
No, that's huge. And I think I talked to Sam Gusson quite a bit about the big 3 as well, and that's something that I want to start implementing next year. And because I think the tough time that I was having, and things worked out for us this winter, where it kind of evened out as far as people going to do other things and made everything work naturally. But I know there's going to be a point where you have to make that decision of who gets the hours and who doesn't, and instead of just like picking favorites or saying, oh, I think this person should get the hours more than this person because of X, Y, and Z reason that you're making up, is just like, okay, these are the 3 things that are important to you, and we're going to judge each employee based off of these 3 metrics and these 3 things, and whoever's the highest performer, that's the person that's going to get the hours rather than just a subjectivity basis. So
yeah.
cool.
And it removes the emotion from it. It like, what do you value? I value the people that show up, don't get yellow slips, and do the most production. Those are my 3 things in the field. And it just makes it really easy. They totally get it when it's coming. And there's times it's like, hey man, you would have had the hours, but you called off twice last week.
Yep.
You understand, right? And they're like, yeah, I get it.
Yep.
So it hopefully raises their intelligence to be, not intelligence, but like raises their awareness to be like, oh man, like I need to show up. Like they're serious here,
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think there's a lot of positives that come from that, as far as, you can have that conversation whenever you're hiring and training and onboarding employees, and saying, hey, we're going to do our best to get as much work as we can in the winter, but there's not going to be enough hours. And so these are the 3 things that you're going to be judged off of. And whoever does the best 3 things, those are going to have the hours in the winter. So, you do all 3 of these things perfectly, I'll guarantee as many hours as I can give you in the winter, and just create a positive culture around those things that you want. And like you said, just not make that emotional. So no, that's huge. Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next question is, how do you have your general managers kind of cover down in the field? Because that's kind of the model that I've heard from everybody who has general managers and have multiple locations is, hey, if a guy calls out, worst comes to worst, you're going to have to cover down in the field and make sure the work gets done for that day or that week. What does that look like whenever they have estimates, interviews, meetings, and other things that are like on their schedule as like hard time blocks that they can't necessarily miss, especially like interviews and stuff like that, where a lot of the estimates are drive-bys. You can do those anytime. But what does that look like whenever your general manager has things on their schedule that they can't miss, and you got a new guy coming in and his crew leader calls off and you standing there with nobody else to go with? What does that that look like covering down in the field and making things work in a situation like that?
I think this is very scenario based. It's a great question. It's very scenario based because it's going to be a lot different if it's a $200,000 location versus a $500 or $600,000 location. It's very scenario based. But let's say for you, because you said that you're hiring a general manager, you did 400,000 this year. You're looking at doing 600,000. Okay, so you're pretty much on pace to do 600K next year. You've got your general manager in place. If somebody calls off on the Mo crew or whatever, and now your general manager has to go out into the field, I would be so you have to sit down and think about what is the priority. What we found, Larissa and I fell into this trap a lot, that we would go out in the field and like do the Mo route for the guy that didn't show up. And as great as that sounds, because we're making money, that's not the best value of the general manager's time. Instead, I would rather him be sitting in an interview or two to find a replacement for that guy that continues to call off. And then unfortunately, that's going to backlog some of the Mo route. But at $400,000 or $500,000 location, you've got 4 or 5 other guys that you can kind of offload the work. If you're at a $200,000 location and one of the guys calls off, that's like half of your workforce. You got to kind of go out and help cover down. But if you got a guy that calls off and you've got six employees, I mean, you can kind of disperse that one dude's route over the other 5 guys and just say, hey guys, sorry, everybody's going to have 4 more lawns on their day today. It's like, okay, well, that pushes them back maybe an hour on their day, you know? So, but yeah, you got to be really careful at that 500K mark, because as easy as it is, like the working GM model, right? It's so easy for him to jump back out in the field. Be very careful with that, because what'll happen is he's going to get burnt out by covering down for because there's always going to be somebody that calls off. That's natural. When you get to 700,000 to 800,000, dude, in the spring and summer, almost every day there's something going on. The truck's breaking down, equipment's breaking down, somebody's got to leave early. I mean, we have at our peak, we had 10 or 11 employees. There's always something going on. Somebody's calling off, and the GM can't just go out and cover down every time. Hopefully that makes sense. I would rather him be focusing on hiring and like, yeah, if there's interviews, we're doing the interviews. The Mo's can get an email and say, sorry, we got a delay. We're putting you on tomorrow.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of on a similar vein with the general managers and their responsibilities and kind of figuring out the priorities. What tasks do you have the general manager do versus the office do? And I'll give you a couple scenarios that I've been thinking through, because obviously this is the obvious stuff, but things like damage cases, and then following up on like project estimates, landscaping estimates, things like that, texting on the way if you're to the estimate, if the customer has requested that, and just things of that nature. Like, is that stuff that basically anything that has to do with customer communication is all office, or is there times when you have the general manager handle that? And if so, is that through their personal, cell phone, or do they have access to the company line that, they contact them on their behalf, or what does that look like?
Yeah, it's a mix. It's a mixture. I think, and I even dug in to see how kind of like Mike and Augusta does it. They do it a little different than we do, but I think it's whatever kind of fits your guys' molding. What I will tell you though is general managers will come and go. I think we've been blessed on the office side to where we don't have really much any turnover. Like our office manager is incredible. To where on the GM side, we've had more turnover, and maybe it's, it's our training and we need to get more dialed in and stuff like that. But I would rather have the more complex stuff on the admin management side and the GM role a little like just kind of easy and seamless. So that way, if one drops, I can plug them right back in. That would be my goal, is to make the GM role like as easy as possible to plug in a new GM and train them. And so the way that we do that is, for one, we don't allow the ability to text necessarily. I take that back. We do in the title sometimes they want a 15-minute call before you get there. So we would leave that up to the general manager to look at the title of his route and the next one and give the guy a call. That would be a simple task. Now, as far as following up with estimates, that's a GM role, because the GM has the highest lever of like what that location is going to do revenue wise by hiring and doing in-person estimates, right? Or drive-bys. What we do is we use a software called Nextiva. I mean, any kind of phone service you can use, but we allow them access to our office number by downloading an app. So when they make phone calls to pending estimates, it's coming from our office number and they're using their cell phone. So they're calling through the Nextiva app saying, hey, it's Will with Military Lawn Cuts, just checking in. I got availability on Friday. I can squeeze you in. Most of the time they don't answer, so they just leave a voicemail. And then if they call back to the office, that's when the office will take back over. I think there was potentially something else. Did I cover all of that, unpackage that, or was there something
Yep.
else?
Mainly, I assume the only other thing I was thinking about was damage cases, because that's more something that's operations related, but again, customer communication facing. But again, kind of interrupting the general manager to go text and call the customer about a damage case. So where does that kind of fall with communication?
So that falls exactly with complaints. Damage cases, if there's damage on the property or there's complaints, it's very simple. The office does not, 98% of the time, they should not be needing to reach out to the GM unless it's like a weird scenario. If a customer calls and claims that there's damage on a property, what they will do is they'll go to the dispatch board, see if there's a note, see if there's a picture, see if any of the crew, oh, there's not. Okay, then I need to fill out a yellow slip. So they'll fill out a yellow slip and then they'll create a to-do and they'll assign it to basically the GM. They'll assign it to the GM and they'll assign it to, they'll create another like meeting inside of Copilot for the crew that damaged it. So there's actually two things that get created, and then the general manager will see it next day that, oh snap, there's a damage case here. And then, in the notes there, it might be like, hey, you may have to go out and look at the fence because they're saying that it's broken. And then the GM basically takes over from there. We'll give a call, kind of do their investigation, maybe need to go out to the property, maybe have the customer send photos. While obviously the office is assisting as well. Like, hey, I'm going to fill out, we call them work orders to the customer because that's just kind of sounds better than a yellow slip. We just say, hey, yeah, we'll put a work order in. Can you send over pictures of the damage so we can assess it and things like that? Now the office manager might shoot the GM a text in that scenario because those are a little bit more rare and just be like, hey, we had a damage case for a damaged gate with this customer, just a heads up, it's on your board for tomorrow. They're sending in pictures. I'll let you know when it comes in. And when they do come in, sometimes we'll just forward it over to the GM's email. But essentially, if done properly, the GM in the office should not really have to communicate much. Like, we're all streamlined outside of maybe forwarding emails of like pertinent information, but
Yep.
but then the GM would get a contractor scheduled if they did break it and then handle the deductions of like, because they're more operational. They know what's going on. Okay, we needed a side contractor to do it and fix it. It was $150, and he did the investigation, spoke with the employee. He admitted to the damage. He didn't take the pay. Okay, well then it's coming out of his bonus, so it's going to be he'll log into P4P, do a negative 150, put for damage gate.
Perfect. Yep, that makes sense. Awesome. And on that similar note, what is the process for having the general manager communicate with the office? Is it all basically like Copilot to-dos anytime that the office needs something from the general manager, or is that like a Slack Connect team chat, or what makes the most sense there for kind of back and forth communication?
We do three different things. So our biggest and I'd say fastest and easiest is WhatsApp. We have a WhatsApp chat for each location with the general manager, the office, and then the regional managers attached to it. And then the second thing, obviously phone calls, but the problem is you don't want the office having that access to just call the GM. Like, the GM's busy, like they're doing things. The least amount of that, the better. But obviously there are key things that have to go back and forth. So WhatsApp chat is probably the best. And then, yeah, any kind of yellow slip, they'll create to-dos, which they're not to-dos actually. It's a to-do to fill out the yellow slip. So manually, the GM, when they see that, they'll physically pull a yellow piece of paper, write it down, and then put it in the folder to review during the team meeting, and then they'll mark it complete on that side of things. Yeah.
Got it. Cool. What kind of bonuses and rewards and other incentives are you doing for your frontline team members as far as weekly, monthly, anything above and beyond, obviously P4P and all that good stuff?
So this year we did a vacation giveaway, which was pretty big. So again, what we value is people that do the big three. And that's what we want to push in meetings and reward people and congratulate. So every month, whoever did the big three flawlessly and had perfect attendance would get one raffle ticket for a drawing to win at the end of the year for them, plus any individual that they want to pick. If they want to pick somebody from the team, if they want to pick their spouse, whoever, them plus one, all you can eat, all you can drink, airfare, travels, room and board, all paid for, like a 5 to 7 day thing. Okay. Amazing trip, like amazing trip for them plus one. And so every month, again, we'd stand in front of the team and the team meeting and be like, all right, this person got a raffle. Yeah, this person. And so again, it's kind of like, reminds them that's what we value and stuff like that. So that's what we did this year. That worked out really well. We did the drawing, I think a couple of weeks ago. It's on our Facebook page. You can watch it, but that was cool. I think next year we're going to do $100 giveaways for people that check the big three. Because again, man, I 1000% am willing to give $100 to somebody if they show up every single day for the entire month and do above, I think it's like 80 or 100 budgeted hours. When you sit down and do like 5 budget hours a day, 100, 5 times 5 is 25, and then 4 weeks in a month. If they do over 100 budget hours and never call off for the entire month, dude, I'll give everybody $100. Like, it just makes my life easier. And I know they're going to make us more than just that $100. On top of the P for P. So I think we're going to be doing that next year. As far as bonuses, dude, honestly, actually, Sam, I was talking to him the other day. It's not always about monetary bonuses for people. To you and I, it is, right? Because we're business owners. Why are we doing what we're doing? To make more money. I mean, that's when you peel back the onion. I mean, obviously I want to help people and stuff like that, but like, we want to, build wealth. That's what we want to do. And so what we did this year is we had 3 awards. So we had the MVP award, we had the Big 3 award, whoever did the Big 3 the best, and then I also value people that grow, that want to grow, that ask a lot of questions, that like read a lot of books. And so we came up with three awards, and at our end of year Christmas party, we printed off a certificate, a medal, if you want to say, in a plaque. And we literally went to Walmart and bought the casings for like $3 a case. It just took us a little bit of time. And we recognized 3 individuals in front of everybody. And dude, you'd be surprised. Like, some of them pulled me aside and was like, hey, Will, I've never been recognized like this before at any job that I've worked at. And this means a lot. And they went home and put that stuff on their wall, So it's not always money or bonuses that drives people. Sometimes it's competition or recognition.
Yeah. No, I think that's huge. I think I was thinking about that quite a bit, because I think, especially in the past, I've gotten pretty wrapped up into like, okay, how can I create the absolute best workplace that we can? And we're just going to like throw money at people for all these different things. Of any little thing you do, here's $50, here's $20, just here's all these awards and incentivizing things we want. But I think in a lot of ways it gets overkill, and it just gets expected too much, and that they think they can deserve it. And it doesn't always make sense in the right vein. And so I think for next year especially, I've just been trying to dial that back a little bit, incentivize the things that are truly important and that are truly going to move the needle on an everyday basis. And that, I think that's a great idea, as far as something huge like that you can give away, that they're storing up for all year long by doing certain things, get raffle tickets put in the drawing at the end of the year, something like that. And then just those recognitions of calling those out and honoring those people can definitely go a lot further than just constantly throwing money, an extra $20 for every little thing they do. So
yeah, Adam, the other thing that I have 2 things off the top of my head. So one of the other things that we do is we do a snack fund. So we take $200 every month and we buy the team snacks, drinks, healthier snacks, granola bars, peanuts, stuff like that. For now, again, when you're first starting out the business, like, that doesn't really make sense. You need every dollar. But once you get to a point where you want less turnover in the business, you want to take care of your team. Again, it's not always about money. Getting that snack fund, there's guys you hire in the spring that don't have a lot of money, and them coming in and being able to grab a couple of muffins and a Gatorade in the morning is big for them, and like gets them that somewhat of a breakfast to get out, and it stops them from hopefully stopping at the gas station too. So who knows, maybe it is making you a little bit more money because they're a little more productive, right? And then we limit that to 2 items a day, so that way it doesn't get too taken advantage of. And then outside of that, your typical paid time off, that's another benefit that you can give. We give 2 weeks off for the first year, which is big. I don't know what other lawn company is given 2 weeks of paid time vacation. in people's first years. And then on the second year, they get 3 weeks. So again, I am incentivizing now that we are in profit mode and doing, I think we'll do about 750K this year at our main location. I want people to stay for a couple, 2-3 years, because although, yeah, I'm dishing out $200 for a snack fund and paying them 2 weeks, like it's cheaper than having to replace them, and that's the goal.
Yep. No, I like that a lot. Yep, absolutely. When do you think that like a variable P for P percentage makes sense, where you're not necessarily variable, I don't think that's the right word, but changing it based off the time of the year, as far as having a different P for P rate in, the spring versus in the summer versus in the winter? When do you think that would make sense?
What state are you in?
Ohio.
Okay. For us, I don't know exactly how Ohio is, because you guys, I don't think, have as long of a summer as us, or maybe as an intense summer as us. And you don't have to do this, by the way. Like, a quarter of the year increase it. It's up to you. Maybe you only do it for 1 month or 2 months, maybe. I know Mike does it in the spring when like they get a lot of overgrown lawns. We handle it a little bit different. We do it when it's June, July, August down here in Texas, when the temperatures are literally over 100 degrees every day. It's miserable. I've been out there before mowing a lawn by myself, and I literally had to take a break twice on a 30-minute lawn because I was so hot. And like I stopped, I had to go in the truck, turn the AC on, and like wait 10 minutes. Like it gets brutal. And so I don't want them to get deterred by not making good money in that time. So what we do is we just bump it up to 40%. And they make great money, even on the days when it's a little cooler. That once in a blue moon, dude, these guys are making like a lot of money. So yeah, I would say when it makes most sense is when it's most difficult to hit and make good money on P for P. So I know Mike does it in the spring rush with the overgrowns, but what we do on overgrown fees is we just have them take a picture of it, put a note that it's overgrown, and then whatever overage is on that property, we pay them out for that budgeted time, because we're going to add an additional invoice to that customer. We're going to send them an email and be like, hey, they spent an extra 30 minutes on your property, so we're going to charge you for 30-minute budgeted time at $80 an hour. So it's going to be a $40 overgrown fee for you, because it was shin high in the backyard. And so we just really, and then what also helps with the crews too is they're incentivized to slow down. Like, guys, you are going to get paid for that overgrown time. You don't need to rush through it. If you need to double cut the backyard, then double cut it. Make sure it looks good, because we get the most complaints on first time cuts anyway. So it's really important that we leave that property in pristine condition. This is the first view of our service to the customer. It's our first appearance. If we leave it halfway looking good, they're going to cancel. And so, it incentivizes the cruises take a little bit longer on that first cut. They do get paid out for that, so it's not hurting their budgeted time, as long as they take a picture and add a note, which again helps us, because then we can build a customer, is kind of how we work that for the spring.
Yep, I gotcha. That makes sense. And on your first mows, you do like permit it on the first cut?
No, we just put a disclaimer in there that it could be up to 2 to 3 times the price, depending on its condition. I've seen that confuse a lot of customers. I know there's companies out there. I think Mike does that. Augusta Lawn Care does that. It just confuses them, right? Like, but so does the 2 to 3 times, because it's like, well, which is it? Well, we don't know. I mean, it depends on its condition. If it's a little overgrown, it's probably going to be closer to the one-time mow visit. If it's like shin high, yeah, it could be double. We've seen it triple, even more than that, So that's how we handle it. I don't think there's a perfect way. It's just how you want to explain it to the customer. We have found that it's a little hard to tell them. It's not hard if you're running single man teams, because it's very black and white. Oh, they spent 30 minutes. I'm going to get billed 30 minutes. It's when you have 2 guys there and you're there for 30 minutes and they're like, why did I get billed for $80? And it's like, well, there was 2 people there for 30 minutes. So it's 1 hour of labor. And they don't understand that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's why I have not done the 2 to 3 times per cut, but also I've been trying to, and that's what I've tried to plan for next year, is try to give them like a range where, depending on how bad it is, it's going to be 2 to 3 times the standard price or something like that go up, because it just sucks having to explain that and getting some unhappy customers, doing it that way, or if you have to go and stop by the property before you show up, that's just a waste of a visit, a waste of the general manager's time as well to go do that before we even get started. So
Yeah, and we're always running 2-man teams in the spring because we're ramping up. You know what I mean? Like we're always trying to max out the trucks with 2 people. So like we're always running 2-man teams. And then the other thing, when we tell them that it could be 2 to 3 times the price, they're like, whoa, like, well, but can you tell me what it is? And the way and where what we revert to is like, look, it's based on how long we're there. When we're done, we will email you what the additional cost is before we build a card. So you will know we're not just going to bill your card out of the blue for 50 or $100 more. We will notify you via email that there is an additional cost. This is what it is. And we'll typically give you a day or 2 to rebuttal that and be like, there's no way, which I leave this part out to the customer, but it helps us. Otherwise you'll get angry customers. Why did you bill my card? So we just send them an email, and then we typically will wait 24 hours before we bill the OG fees because we've been yelled at before and we don't want to go.
Sure, absolutely. What advice would you have for my new general manager next year? Any words of advice or things that you would tell them to make them successful in that role?
Great question. So there's a couple of books, depends on what they're lacking. The 3 books off the top of my head that I think would set a general manager up for success are these 3. Number 1 is Extreme Ownership, taking accountability for everything that goes under them. Number 2 is How to Win Friends and Influence People. That would be your dichotomy culture, keeping the team together, being a likable person. You want your team to like the general manager, and he needs to be able to communicate effectively. If in the back of your mind right now, you're like, oh man, this dude crushes budgeted hours, never gets slips, but maybe the whole entire team doesn't like him, that would probably be the book. How to Win Friends and Influence People. Then the third one is going to be Sell or Be Sold by Grant Cardone. Phenomenal sales book. It's the best book I've ever read, or actually audiobook. Okay, so those are 3 things. And then here's the other thing in the brain I would have. He needs to flip this switch over. He is coming from an operational, doing the work role. That's what he knows. That's all he knows. He gets dispatched a route. He goes out and does it. What he is going to be shifting over to is a salesperson first, not a doer. He's not a doer. If he wants to grow that thing to $600,000+, he is not a doer. Every minute that he spends out in the field behind a mower, that's taking away from him doing a drive-by estimate or him following up with an estimate, he is doing a detriment to the numbers and the goals he wants to hit. And that would be my first thing sitting down with him and doing that handoff is like, you have to understand this. When there is no jobs on the schedule, it's your job to kick it into gear and sell. Get on the phone, send out a monthly upsell, like get on your team about doing upsells on the properties. That is at the forefront of your brain. So you should build him like a priority checklist is what we did for our GMs. Number 1 is sales. It's not operations. You're not in. He is operations, but coming from that field is what I have seen with my general managers is they think ops first, like doing the routes first, and they don't think sales. So that way, so what happens, what you'll find is like they're so much in that mode in their brain of like just getting the routes done that like on a week that is slower or they don't have anything done, they're like, oh yeah, I'm going to just move all my jobs to Thursday and then I'm going to take Friday off. You're going to take Friday off. We need to be doing door hangers. We need to fill that route now. Like that's a good thing. That means we can sell more. That's not like, we're not just going to like go backwards here. Right. So it's like just kind of rewiring them to focus that first, I'd say.
I like that. And then I'll fire last question at you, unless you want to take some more time, answer some more. But I'll give you a last question. Is what are you working on right now? Kind of what struggles are you facing in the company and things you're focused on, especially as we have next couple months to really dive deep into the backside of the business while we're not as busy.
Yeah, good question. So I'm juggling a lot right now because I'm kind of covering down for the Aubrey general manager right now, and then I'm playing a regional manager over a new general manager, but then I'm also in the admin side. So I'm very spread thin. And I don't recommend it to anybody. I don't think that you're as effective doing it that way. Like, sure, I know everything like in the business, I know how things run, but like I'm so spread thin sometimes I'm not really effective. So there's like simple things that I'm not like catching, right? Just simple things. And so I guess the challenges and the things that we're working on right now, we're working on restructuring our business. I'm working with a couple attorneys right now to restructure kind of how our business is structured from a defensive side of things to protect us from like, litigation and liability as we start to grow and scale. So I've been working on that. And then we're, I don't know if you know this, but we're rebranding basically our logo. It's very busy, the circular one. So that's finally done. I was working with a designer. That's done. I just have to like change everything over. And I was actually looking at the video today. I'm like, man, I got to update that. So maybe on the next video, you guys will see the updated version. It's pretty much the same, just more simplified. We are working also with with that logo change. We're doing partial wraps to all of our vehicles for a long-term brand play this year. So again, I'm working with that. I just texted our office manager today, like 18 tasks that we have to do in the office, stuff that we need to do before March 1st, before the spring rush happens. And I'm kind of pulling it up now. I can kind of like just give you, I mean, I could fire some of this stuff off. We're adjusting some of the pay for the general managers. We need to update our handbook. I need to fix our fuel cards. So we have fuel cards for our company. And right now they only allow us to go to 7-Eleven, which is kind of a problem because if they stop at like a Circle K or something like that, they need to be able to fuel up and not just go to 7-Elevens. We're looking at, with the restructure, I gotta like get like new insurance policies, stuff like that, fix some bank account stuff, automations, like figure out some automations. Right now we have a Zapier automation that's supposed to, when they fill out the form on our website, it is supposed to create it inside of the CRM. So that way we don't have to do a double entry. It's not working right now, which is a problem. And it's at our main location. There's a ton of leads that come in. So you have to like manually transfer all that data. So I'm working with, I'm like, there's a lot. I don't know. There's other things, some automation stuff that I've got on my board. I've got this whiteboard that I just write down. And so a lot of that, those like admin stuff. I'd just say like if March 1st was here next week, like what do we need to do to make the spring rush as successful as we possibly can, to where our brain space and energy is not taken up by stuff that we could have done in December and January. That's the stuff that we need to be doing now. And we can like hire people sooner than everybody else, because that's when you make the best hires, when you start literally a month before the grass starts growing, because all the lawn companies are waiting until they need guys. And so, yeah, I'd just say a lot of that stuff.
Cool. I like it.
Awesome. Well, I've got a couple more minutes here, Adam. If you had any other questions, but no, you got some good questions today.
Yeah, no, I always try to pick your brain, see what I can get out of you. But yeah, I'll fire a couple more at you. A couple of things I've been thinking about recently, kind of on the vein of automations, like you were mentioning. Lately, Sam's been helping me out a lot with that aspect. But I've been trying to set up as many automations as possible for things that make sense to, again, just limit the admin tasks that's needed. So over the past couple weeks, I have one, like you were saying, that puts it straight from the website form into Copilot, so you don't have to do a double entry. I've set up 20 days to close automation and then a 60 days to collections automation as well to automate at least the general follow-ups and on estimates and invoices. And besides that, though, anything else that you're working on automation-wise or suggestions that you would have to, automate more of the admin side?
I would do auto billing. You're using Copilot, right?
Mm.
Yeah, definitely auto billing next day or same day. The faster you get the money, the better. That's just my perspective of it. I know some people will bill weekly or like monthly, but we bill same day. We just tell the customer, we come out once we mark the job complete, you'll get invoiced that night. It's on auto. I say that. I think those are really the core ones. Outside of when you send an estimate, you should be utilizing the email and the text follow-up, which I mean is part of your 20 days to close. So I'd say that's probably the big one. Collections, that one's a big one. Yeah, I'd say those are really the big ones. There's like simple ones in there that you can do, which I think help. Like for example, when you send an estimate, you can have it where when you send them an email one, it will automatically fire off the text version. And so you can kind of, instead of having to do like email and then going back and doing the text, you just do email and it will trigger the next one. Just some simple stuff like that, which adds up after a year of doing estimates. But yeah, I'd say that's pretty good. So what is your role going to be next year? So you're hiring somebody to take over the GM role. Do you have an office person? Are you going to be stepping into the admin role? Like, what's that?
Yeah, I'll be the office manager for next year, so I don't have any. I've never hired or even tried to get an admin person yet. So I'll still be handling that, and then I'll be helping out. Just since we only have obviously one location, regional manager is really not a role yet, besides just basic check-in with the general manager. So I'll be diving into a lot of the sales stuff with him and just trying to help out on that front, just to really explode that growth in the spring. And so, yeah, focus on sales for location, and then regional manager check-ins, and then being the office manager is what my role is going to look like for next year.
Yeah, I think that'll be good. That'll be really good. I was gonna say, because like, if you got him taking over the GM stuff and pretty much all of ops, as long as once you get him up to speed on stuff, like, yeah, you're not gonna have much to do unless you're starting a second location or doing the office stuff. But I think it's good you sitting in that seat as an admin, so that way when the time comes that you do need an office person, you have systemized it and simplified it enough to do a handoff, and it enough because you've done it for a year.
So. Yeah, that's what I'm hoping for is this year, just try to figure out kind of, number one, what a general manager needs to be successful so that we can document that process, and then easily, general manager two, we already have, all the training process already lined up and what they're going to need to be successful. And then same thing, just try to prepare to hand off the office manager role, hopefully start of 2026. And so that's what I'm going to try to focus on for this year is just see what's going on, make sure that, everything is seamless as possible and makes sense, so that, like I said, start 2026, hopefully I can hand that off, and then hopefully the plan will be to start up location 2 and get that running and off the ground and start 2026.
Yeah, that's awesome. For your general manager, do you have, like, obviously this hasn't probably happened yet, but do you have something in place that you're going to do, like a weekly sit down review of KPIs of what you guys are going to talk about? What KPIs are you going to be kind of going through with him?
Yeah, so I saw the live stream that you did, Caleb, I think it was 2 months ago. Well, you guys covered that. That was awesome. And then I talked to Sam about it quite a bit as well. So planning on having like just a weekly, like you said, KPI check-in, basically measuring, all the important things. Let me find it. Talk about all the things.
While you're pulling that up, what I would recommend is establishing a boundary with them in the hiring and being like, look, these are the numbers that you must be above. And if you're below these metrics, this can and will lead to termination. So you're basically telling him the boundaries that you must, as much as you want to sit there and hope that it's probably going to be great. Like I said, we've been through, I think this will be our third general manager. So just be very clear on what a fireable offense is for them, so they understand, they're not blindsided, and you can address things and color code it. If it's not meeting it, it's red. Dude, we got to get this up. Do you know how to get this up? Okay, no, you don't know how to increase your close ratio. Okay, look, we got to do follow-up calls same day, not the next day, same day. And we got to get to our estimates as quickly as possible, and just assisting them that way, I think would be good. But yeah, if you have those metrics from that call, spot on. I just wanted to make sure that you at least had something to measure. Otherwise it's hard to like critique a manager when there's no clear boundaries, but those KPIs will give you that effectiveness as a leader to be like, you're average, you're falling behind, or you're above average. And
Yep.
And then also, this is actually something I'm going to incorporate into mine, is like the color coding section. Like, my goal as a regional manager is to make sure that they're all green. And if they're all green, to you, Adam, as a GM of mine, means you are going to get paid the absolute most. How? Through bonuses, through profit sharing, because the location is going to be very healthy. That's what we want, right? If you're average, you're going to get average pay. Sure, you're going to get your base salary, but it's average, right? And then obviously, if you're red for a period of time, you're probably not going to have a job long term. And just clearly like, hey, we're going to go through these KPIs. Here's what the colors mean. My goal is to have all of these KPIs in the green. If we can get that and maintain that, dude, you will make so much money here. And my job is here to assist you on that. And so, each week we'll sit down and kind of go over that stuff, but just kind of creating that little chart, because some people are color visual,
Yeah. Yeah, no, I love that aspect of your guide, and I think that's, again, just on the same vein of incentivizing the thing that you want. So hit the green. This is your pay based off of that. I think incentivizing that would be, top priority. But I'll run through the things that I have that I'll be tracking here, and then also you can let me know if I'm missing anything, and then anything else that you discuss in your kind of general manager check-ins when you're doing, going through all these KPIs. Anything else that you ask them, talk about, anything like that, feel free to include that. But I'll run through the things that I'm planning on tracking for my general manager. Capacity, so how many budget hours being completed compared to how much capacity we have based off of the equipment. General manager budget hours completed, close ratio, obviously, callbacks, crew efficiency score, attrition, customers loss on whatever basis, obviously revenue and profit on a monthly basis, customer acquisition cost, weeks booked out. Yeah, that's about it.
I think the weeks booked out is pretty much the budget hour capacity. You could probably combine those. The attrition rate, honestly, if you're asking me, just to keep things simple, you could probably drop if you're tracking yellow slips.
Yeah.
You will know based on the yellow slips they get. If they get more than one a week, there's a problem. I understand there's new team members, but we got to dial that in. And as long as you dial that in, hey, and if it's in the red, obviously, well, yellow would be if each of their team gets one slip. But if there's more than that, then they're in the red. Okay, we're failing here. We need to get this up. And so I think if you could probably drop attrition and just track yellow slips to make it simple. The only thing that I would add on that, Adam, is tracking monthly upsells. Did we send an upsell out this past week? Yes or no? Okay, we did. All right. What did we upsell? And was it a text or an email? Putting that data in will allow you to watch over the last 1 to 2 months to see if your GM is like selling. They need to be like every 4 weeks in the growing season, there needs to be some kind of upsell going out for something. If it's like, again, here's where we shift from a doer to a salesman. We got to put it at the front of our brain because they don't, it's hard. It's going to take some time. And so, they're just going to get in the mode of like getting the routes done. And then obviously just seeing if there's any kind of lost revenue. Like, did any jobs not get done this past week? Yes or no? And it should always be no. I'm okay. I think this last year there was maybe 2 weeks that like 2 times out of the 52 weeks out of the year that we didn't get the jobs done. And that was because maybe tons of rain or something like that. But I'd say those are probably the only two things to really dial that in.
Cool. Love it. Awesome. And then, like I said, is there anything else that you're kind of asking or going over in your weekly check-in meeting with your general manager besides just the KPIs?
Kind of. My only recommendation to it is, as you start to hand the workload off to him, there will be times that you need to communicate something to him, whatever it is. Like, for example, this is a weird one, but the budgeted hours on our weed control jobs in Copilot bug out sometimes, and it's really annoying, but it goes to 0. And so he'll go on a route and dispatch it, but if he doesn't catch them, it'll only show like 6 budget hours, but it might actually be 9. And so he actually has to go in and fix it, right? So that would be one thing where like my normal self would text or call him and be like, hey, I got to tell you this thing. What I would recommend is refraining from that in the moment. Why? Because he's very busy. Let him do his job. And during the weekly calls is when we review those things instead of bogging him down. And it goes both ways too. I don't want to get bogged down by my direct reports. Every little question that comes up or statement that they have to tell me, just wait until we get on our daily call or weekly call, and then shoot me with 10 questions you got, just kind of like we do now, right? And so, you want that kind of open doorness, but like, yeah, I'm learning that kind of there just needs to be that mutual like back and forth where it's like, hey, there's going to be things that kind of come up, as long as it's not urgent where you need to know right now, like maybe just, hey, we can review it in the weekly call. Cause I'm busy too, man. If I had to drop and pick up my phone every time I got a text and call from somebody that directly reports to me, I wouldn't get anything done, And so that's something I've learned in the last probably 2 months,
Cool. Awesome. Yep. I love it.
Cool, man. Awesome. Well, this is looks like it's pretty much coming to an end here. So I really appreciate you jumping on, Adam. You always have really good questions, and I'm looking forward to. Are you going to Blue Collar Summit?
Yep, I'll be there.
Let's go. Let's go. You'll get to meet our newest GM, and then obviously my wife Larissa. I don't know if you met her from last year potentially, but I don't know. But yeah, we'll be there with some of our team. So
Yeah,
it'll be
awesome.
fun.
I'm
So
bringing my general manager for next year too. So yeah, we're looking forward to it.
smart. Yeah, dude, it's gonna be great. It's gonna be great. So, but yeah, glad to see you there, and yeah, it's gonna be good. And you're gonna be crushing these goals, dude. Like you and that GM getting on the same page at the conference, and I think that's a good thing. So
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks a lot for hopping on. Like I said, I appreciate it. Always answer my questions and jumping on here. So thank you very much.
absolutely, Adam. Well, you have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, you too, Will. Have a good one.
I'll see ya.